I think Maurice Hurst is going to get a very strongly worded letter from the NFL because, yeah, he was not supposed to let the cat out of the bag like that. Welcome, everybody, to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jower Garrett, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about the Brazil game that is happening in the 2024 season. Week 1, the very first game to ever take place in Brazil. It'll be a battle between the Philadelphia Eagles, and to be determined, we don't know who they're playing. The Eagles are the home team, we know that, but we had no idea who the opponent was going to be for this game until today. Because accidentally, someone let the cat out of the bag, and it was Maurice Hurst, the defensive tackle on the Cleveland Browns. Roughly 75 years ago, the Eagles played the Browns to open up the 1950 season in the very first matchup between an NFL team and an AAFC team. And now, roughly 75 years later, they're making history again as the very first matchup in Brazil because it looks like the Cleveland Browns are going to be the opponent. This, according to Maurice Hurst, when he was just going on a Browns radio show, was talking about random stuff, and then accidentally spilled the beans that, oh yeah, the Browns are playing in Brazil this year. Take a listen.
If you were organizing the room vacation, where are you going? If you're the party planner.
I mean, if we're doing a cruise, I mean,
what if everything's on the table?
Anything's on the table. I mean, we're playing in Brazil this year, so I mean, we could do a
Rio.
Trip. Yeah, just a little Rio trip out there.
I don't know how that would lose.
Now, you might be saying, wait a sec, how on earth could Maurice Hurst possibly know about this? The schedule doesn't come out for another 2 months. We don't know who is playing who. We don't know what teams are playing where. Well, that's not entirely true, because we saw earlier this month, we saw testing at Wembley Stadium on one of the video boards, and it involved the Jacksonville Jaguars, who we know have a home game there, playing the New York Jets, and that is a very likely matchup. That is a matchup that the Jaguars could play, and they were doing video testing there. It doesn't make any sense why you would video test two teams that aren't going to be playing in the game. So you probably know who's playing internationally. You probably know everything in that regard because these games take a long time to plan in terms of making sure the players have the right passports, making sure they get all that business taken care of, making sure that the flights are good, and making sure the equipment can get there. It's a long, lengthy process, more so than a game in the continental U.S., so you got to know this months and months in advance. So it is very possible that the Browns could know. Now, either Maurice Hurst is lying, he either completely misinterpreted the situation or misinterpreted the schedule, or in all likelihood, he just said something he wasn't supposed to and accidentally spilled the beans that the Cleveland Browns will be playing the Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil for the 2024 season in that Friday night opener. Now, it makes sense why the Browns would be that team. We've speculated for a while that the Browns will play the Eagles as the Brazil game because the Eagles have 9 home games this year as part of the agreement where in even number years, NFC teams get 9 home games, and in odd number years, AFC teams get 9 home games. You're not going to take away the divisional game. You're not going to. The NFL has never taken away an NFC East divisional game for an international game. Only very few times has the NFL taken away a divisional game and made it international. You had Jets-Dolphins in London, you had Jaguars-Texans, you had Jaguars-Colts, but other than that, you really don't see a whole lot of instances where a divisional game gets taken away, and they were not going to do it for the NFC East, the most brutal division in football from a rivalry standpoint. I know there was speculation from Pat McAfee about Eagles-Cowboys. That would not work. NBC wants one of those games. Fox wants one of those games. You know that. It seems to always happen that way, where one time it's America's Game of the Week at 4:25, and the other time it's a Sunday Night Football game. One network would be royally screwed over if that happened. You know, NBC or Fox would have thrown a fit. So Eagles-Cowboys wouldn't work. You're not going to see Eagles-Giants or Eagles-Commanders. That leaves 6 teams left. Eagles-Panthers, you're not going to do that. You don't really want to put the Carolina Panthers on national TV this early on. Too much travel for Carolina on top of that because they're playing in Germany. That's been confirmed. So you're not going to have the Panthers playing a game in Germany and in Brazil. That's a lot of travel, a lot of mileage. You don't see teams playing in 3 countries in a given year. They do play the Jaguars in Philadelphia. You're not going to do Jacksonville. Too much travel for the Jaguars because they have 2 games in London, 1 game in Brazil. Obviously, 3 countries in a season, not going to work out. That leaves you with 4 teams: Atlanta, Green Bay, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, you're not doing that. You're not taking away the in-state rivalry. There is no way you're taking a game between the Eagles and the Steelers when they rarely meet up as it is. They meet up once every 4 years. You're not going to move an in-state rivalry game to Brazil. Fans would throw a fit, and understandably so. The Atlanta Falcons, well, they played international games in 2021 and 2023. The only want them playing 3 times in 4 years internationally. That's a lot of mileage. I'm not sure you want to do that. So it really leaves the Cleveland Browns and the Green Bay Packers. Now, Cleveland has only played 1 international game before. They played in 2017 in London against the Minnesota Vikings. They were supposed to play the Jaguars in 2020 in London. Obviously, all international games got canceled that season due to COVID. Having said that, the Green Bay Packers have only played 1 international game. That was in 2022 against the New York Giants. So why not the Packers-Eagles? Why Browns-Eagles? Well, here's the thing. NFL Brazil put out this Instagram post talking about the most popular teams in Brazil. Here's the percentages. It makes sense. The percentages make a lot of sense. The more popular teams are at the top, just like they are in the United States. The less popular teams are at the bottom. The Green Bay Packers are the most popular team in Brazil. They are the most popular team in Brazil. This is a home game for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Packers are, by more than a percentage point, the most popular team in that country. The Eagles would throw a fit, and understandably so, if they lost that game against the Packers in Philadelphia. Because number one, you can sell a lot of tickets that way. You're going to get huge ticket prices for there. That's a lot of money that a guy like Laurie would be losing out on potentially compared to a Browns game. Number two, it would basically be a road game for Philadelphia because the Packers have such a large presence in Brazil that the Eagles would have to go to the silent count at times. It would not work out in the slightest bit. So it makes sense that the Cleveland Browns are the team playing in Brazil in 2024, opening up against the Philadelphia Eagles in that game, according to Maurice Hurst, who, again, I have a feeling he's telling the truth here. I don't know why you would just drop this out of the blue, out of nowhere, just saying, oh yeah, by the way, we're playing in Brazil next year. I don't know why you would say that if that was not the case. Unless someone in the Browns gave you faulty information, or you're just trying to stir something up, which you really have no incentive to do, it seems very likely that the Philadelphia Eagles and the Cleveland Browns are playing in Brazil in 2024, and it makes complete sense as to why that is the case. And it will be an interesting way to start the season off, the very first regular season game ever in Brazil. First time the NFL is opening up on a Friday, planned since 1970 when the Rams played the Cardinals. They played a few Friday week 1 games before, but this is the first one that's been planned in more than half a century. It's going to be really, really interesting. So a lot of details to decide in terms of what TV network's going to get the game. Maybe it's Amazon. Who's going to call the game? Who's going to do what? But at least we know it's going to be Eagles-Browns, barring anything crazy. But what are your thoughts? Do you think this makes sense for the Cleveland Browns to play the Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil? Do you like the move? Do you not like the move? Do you like the NFL expanding to Brazil, playing a game there on a Friday night? What are your thoughts on all of that? Let me know in the comments down below. And do you think Maurice Hurst is telling the truth? Do you think he just accidentally said something he wasn't supposed to? Or do you think he's just making stuff up? I'm inclined to believe the former. I don't know why you would make this up. But that's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, Jaguar Gear 9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. And when the Eagles do play the Browns, these two teams behind me right here will be live streaming the action on Jaguar Gear 9, as we do for every primetime game during the NFL season. Until next time, this is Jaguar Gear 9 signing off, and as always, go Jags.